So this is about, I'd say maybe day 30 for us working from home. Um, and honestly, it almost feels like normal at this point. I think the first couple of days it was a challenge to get used to it. We've adjusted and adapted pretty well. In terms of the draft, I think we have a good plan together that we'll still be working on this weekend and then work on Monday as far as exactly how it's going to run. But we feel pretty good about where we are. So, and I do love the idea about having the draft / telethon next weekend. Um, it's going to give a chance really for every NFL team in the league in general to raise a lot of money for the relief effort. So, and I know each team was allowed to choose a couple different main nonprofit organizations to donate to. And Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think ours was the Blue Cross or the Red Cross and Feeding America.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay, so I think that's good. I mean, obviously with the Red Cross, I think blood drives and chargers are pretty much synonymous. Those two names with our history, and then with the amount of schools that are closed and the amount of people that have had their jobs disrupted, I think food banks, obviously the stress that they've had has been enormous. So I think that money would be well served for those two organizations coming from us and really the whole league. So, but with that, I mean, at least we can sit here and have some fun for a little bit and talk some football, talk some draft. I haven't had a chance to sit down with any of you since probably the combine. So a lot of things have gone on since then. But I'll just open up to the floor with anything you'd like to ask.
All right, we'll start with Derek Toverson. Fire away.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good, thanks. So how has this whole process changed for you guys? I mean, you used to bring in people in for workouts, being able to do interviews, go to pro days. You don't have any of that right now. So how has this kind of fundamentally changed the way that a department analyzes and evaluates prospects and puts that board together?
Yeah, so it was pretty much normal all the way up until the combine. Thank God we got the whole combine in, and really this all started right after that. So in terms of our March and April, yes, it's been different. Really, I think we got 1 week of pro days in. So we do have a lot of incomplete workout information on players. Anybody who didn't do anything at the combine or didn't finish a workout at the combine, we usually would get those numbers at their pro day. We don't have that this year. So that's different. I mean, we try and put a full puzzle together on these players. And part of it is workout numbers in some situations. We like to compare apples to apples, not only in this year's draft, but other drafts. So we may not have that on everybody. And then just our meeting structure has been different, but we've gone through the same process as far as meeting with the scouts, meeting with the coaches. We've just done that, remotely by video conference, and it's actually gone very smoothly. It's been different, but that's been fine. So the end result is we feel like, I think everybody does, we feel like we have enough information to make the picks we need to make. So I think we'll be okay.
All right, next question is from Lindsay.
Hey, Tom, thanks for doing this. There was a report that came out the other day that someone in your organization tested positive for the coronavirus. Are you able to tell us whether that was a player, someone in the front office, or just kind of break down maybe where that fell in your organization and where that person's at with their diagnosis and everything?
Yeah, well, I mean, our business is like everybody else's business. Is like we're not immune to the pandemic that's going on. So it's affecting everyone. But I can tell you, I mean, not specifically about who, but obviously everyone here is doing well. So that's good to know. Due in large part to our partners at Hoag Hospital, or the care that everybody's had has been tremendous. So everybody's doing well. Everybody's healthy. Thank God. Really hasn't affected our preparation at all. That's secondary to health, obviously. But right now everybody's feeling good, and hopefully we have no more incidents moving forward.
All right, next up, Steve Weish.
Hey, Tom. I hope all is well. Hey, look, you said you got all the information and everything you need on your draft prospects. But when it comes to a player like Tua Tagovailoa with the hip injury, is the injury itself more concerned with, if it is a concern about him, or is it the frequency of which he got hurt?
Yeah, obviously we're not going to get into specifics about individual players' injuries, but there was like over 330 players at the combine, and we got our hands on every single one of them and did a physical on all of them. So we feel like we have enough medical information on every player going into the draft. You do have to make some some projections moving forward as far as medical risk, as far as injuries are concerned. We do that with every single player. Football is it's a collision sport. And when you get to this level, it gets even faster and bigger, and there's more collisions. So, it's part of the process of putting that whole puzzle together on every single player. The good thing is I don't feel like we're missing medical information on anybody at this point.
One quick note: if after you ask your question, unraise your hand, and then if you have another one, re-raise it, because then that'll re-queue you. Just a heads up on that. All right, next one is Jason Hirschhorn.
Can you guys hear me? Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So Tom, the last time a team you worked for held like a top 10 pick and had like an interest in drafting a quarterback or a parent interest was in 1998. And that's obviously when the Colts drafted Peyton Manning. You were in a different part of that organization than you are now with the Chargers. But what do you remember about the decision-making process that resulted in picking Manning over Ryan Leaf, knowing that the Chargers at 2 were just going to take whichever one you didn't take? And how does that inform how you're approaching this draft, knowing there's at least a chance that you're going to take a quarterback early in this draft?
Well, first of all, that's a big, long question.
I see that.
Second of all, in 1998, for that draft, I was with the Carolina Panthers. I wasn't with the Colts in their draft room for that draft. That came about a month after that draft from the Panthers. So I was not in there for that decision. I can really tell you from anything we did in 1998 decision-wise, not really on my mind for this draft. I can't remember what I did yesterday so much, Jason, in 1998 at this point, but I wasn't with the Colts for that draft.
All right, next up we got Jeff Miller.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Jeff.
Given the conditions under which this draft is going to happen, do you have a sense at all if this would be is going to impede trying to make trades, anything during the draft, how this all might affect that? And just given this, this condition, this situation we're under, the circumstances, do you think it's more likely, less likely that you would see teams making deals than if this were a normal draft?
It's hard to know at this point. We're going to go through an NFL-sponsored mock draft on Monday that everybody participates in, so we can go through our infrastructure, how everything's going to work, and test some things out. So my sense is if you're working with one team on a trade, I really don't see it being any different than working from the draft room, at least the way we're going to handle it. What's a little unknown factor for me is and this happens a good amount, where you may be on the phone with a couple different teams and looking at different deals. That one we have to work through and see how that's going to work. So it's a bit of an unknown. I mean, we've never done a draft this way ever. We'll get a little bit of practice on Monday. We'll probably see on our end what we think works well, what doesn't, and we'll probably make some adjustments Tuesday, Wednesday, so we're as good as we can into Thursday. And quite honestly, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we may have to make some adjustments for how we're doing things, because the draft process, the whole draft, it's so much more. This is not a solo endeavor by me. There is almost 50 people involved in the draft, and obviously some voices are bigger than others and some you talk to more than others, but there's 50 people that at some point during the draft I may have to ask a question to. So and I need to keep all those people involved in the loop as we normally do, and that's the plan. That's how we're going to do it. But a lot of these things, everything we do on draft day, there are things that we do is things we've practiced and done year after year after year. I know my first year with the Chargers, we went through our own mock draft of how we were going to execute a pick or execute a trade, just because everybody that I was working with for that first year with the Chargers, I'd never worked with before. The team I had come from, we had the same group of people for a long time, so it worked like a well-oiled machine. But when you change teams and change personnel, it's different. So we may have to do some of that this weekend and even into next week and see how that's all going to work out. I just don't know, how the trade process will go. We'll see.
All right, Jarrett Bell, next up.
Oh, okay. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, Jarrett.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the trade flow too. So good question, Jeff, beforehand. So what concerns you the most on, in terms of the logistics of everything? And you may have touched on it a little bit. Do you have extra phone lines in, or Just that whole process of
Yeah, we
talking to
do.
different.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to Jeannie Bunk. She's our COO.
Yeah.
We moved out of our building on March 17th. And even then she was talking about, we need to make plans just in case we have to do a draft remotely. So she's been on top of this and going through different plans. So yes, I have a couple extra landlines in my house that were put in. So we have some phone lines. I have some beefed up internet lines. I've got computers that are plugged in rather than on Wi-Fi. So we've gone through to try and have some backup plans, because this is it's unique, it's different. We're gonna have to be connected not only with all of our staff remotely, but with the league office and other teams all at once. So that's the plan we've been working on. So that's different. And then just the communication with everybody. The Zoom conference, video conferences, they've been good. I do like to see faces when I ask questions to see how they answer. It's not a substitute for being in the same room, but it's the best we can get. Yeah, kind of like those. Like if I ask you a question, you give me that look with an answer, that's not good. So, and I'm just big on face-to-face communication. And I know one thing, just from when I do work at home, when I get an email or text message from somebody at work, I feel like I have to get back to that person as soon as possible, because they may be able to not move on what they're working on until they get an answer from me. So that it breaks up your day a little bit. But the more that we've done this the last month or so, I know I've gotten more comfortable with it and been easier to work with it. And I think everybody has.
One second question from me regarding the draft, the running back position. I'm curious, and I know you've been through some developments over the past couple years at that position. Is there a trend with the running backs in this draft, and particularly the top, 5, 6, 7 backs here, where they are more every down backs, or what do you see trend wise with what's coming out this year at the top of the draft?
I don't know if I see a trend. I do think it's a good group. And I do like you just mentioned, it's a group that's pretty well-rounded. And I just think draft, every draft year to year, if there's good running backs, they'll be taken high. I do believe that. There's been other running backs that have been taken high. Is there a guy in this group that's going to go, extraordinarily high in the top 10 or top 15? I'm not sure about that. Obviously, I don't know where everybody else's draft boards are, but I don't know if one will go that high. But I think overall, that group, I know for us, is really strong throughout the draft, which is nice. Just overall, this draft is very strong. And we've known that since back to probably October, November, that we think this draft, position by position, is as strong as it's been in a long time.
Has the value changed on running backs? We just saw one get a big contract. What the Chargers went through last year with Melvin Gordon. What do you sense in terms of how people view the value, and does that factor into this draft in any way?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it factors into the draft. I think it's a team by team scope of how they look at it, and it's also just based on where your team is at that time. Obviously, I mean, Todd Gurley got a big contract with the Rams. Christian McCaffrey just got a big contract. Other guys have too. But a lot of it may be just dependent on where your team is, how you're going to build your team. We all have the same resources under the salary cap, so that kind of dictates how your team is built. And I know for us, I mean, we're trying to build a team. It's not just putting a portfolio of players together. You're trying to build a team that everything fits together, and a lot of that comes into finances as far as what you can afford and where you're going to put your money. So I just think it's different for every team. But look, running backs in this league, running backs that can run the football, catch out of the backfield, and pass protect, they're still assets to have.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Next up, Fernando Ramirez. Fernando, fire away.
Hey, Tom. Glad to know that you and your family are doing well. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the quarterbacks in this draft. What is your overall analysis on the quarterback position going into this draft?
Overall, I mean, it's like some other positions, actually a lot of positions in this draft. It's pretty strong. And I think people tend to only look at the top of the draft at these different positions, but a lot of them, there's players as you move on to second, third, and fourth rounds that I think are going to be very good players in this league. So I think the last couple years, last 4 or 5 years, a lot of quarterbacks have come in and played early, which is good to see. It's good to see for our league how many good young quarterbacks there are right now. unfortunately, even in our division. So, but no, it's a good class of quarterbacks. I mean, I'm not going to go through each guy individually, but it's pretty good.
All right, next up, Omar Ruiz.
Tom, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, thanks, man.
I didn't recognize you there.
A lot of people have been saying that. I remember at the combine you said that at this point with quarterbacks it was important to begin the evaluation of the classroom, the board work, the preparation, and such like that. And obviously with these Zoom calls, being able to get some of the FaceTime in with those players. But how did you get to the point where you felt comfortable and confident in the information you were gathering, despite that in-person meeting, to have the information that you feel you need come Thursday?
I'll tell you what, I give our coaches credit. They have really jumped into the Zoom and been able to do video with players, whiteboard work, almost everything that we would do normally if it was face to face. So I don't think we've lost a whole that much with it. Now there are some time constraints with our teleconferencing or video conferencing. There's some time constraints there just as far as what the league will allow. A player that comes in for a visit, you essentially have them all day in your building. So a little bit of time there, but honestly, I think we've gotten enough from everybody. And I know our coaches and scouts, when they've sat down with players and talked to them just the way we are right now, but we're also able to do it with some video involved, where we can both watch the video, we can put up a whiteboard, and we can draw up X's and O's and go through that way. And obviously with players nowadays, they're very used to this. They're very used to working on laptops with FaceTime and everything. So we had some coaches that had to get used to it, and they all have, and they've all been able to use it very well.
And my follow-up to that is, with the exception of quarterback, since you've been with the Chargers, you guys have drafted every position in the first or second round. Is that a coincidence, or is that kind of overarching philosophical design that it should be like that?
I hadn't really given it much thought. You have to build an overall team. So I guess that's just the way it's worked out. Every year is different, but you got a full team you got to build.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Nick Hamilton.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hey, Nick.
My question is, obviously, with everything being changed around due to the coronavirus pandemic, usually you guys have things with the fans when you guys draft various players. Are there any contingency plans or any plans in place to maybe present your draft picks to the fans via maybe Zoom call or maybe season ticket holders or something to that degree?
Yeah, that's the side of it that I never get a chance to see. Like the draft event last year that was at Santa Monica Pier, I guess, was unbelievable. We never got a chance to see it from our end because we're stuck in a draft room, no windows and no video of what's going on other than the draft. But I'm pretty sure, and Josh would know and Chris Harry would know, I'm pretty sure they're going to roll some things out that at least get the fans and obviously the media involved with the pick of whoever we take. I'm just not aware of what those are right now. But once we take that player, they're all yours. There's not a whole lot we can do with them right now. There's our OTAs have not started yet. We can't bring them in yet. So between the media and the fans, you guys can have at them.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Kurt Sandoval.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, Tom, kind of going back to the draft room, how do you guys balance out like you've talked a lot about how much talent is in this draft, and because you guys have such a high pick that you could potentially either move down or trade that pick because either the quarterback you have or as you said, maybe a good quarterback later, balancing that. How do you guys do that when these dominoes are going to be falling and you're not going to have 50 guys in one room?
Yeah, you're thinking like a good personnel man, though, because it is a strong draft. I think it's particularly strong in the first round, very deep. So those are discussions that we've already had this week. We go through every scenario that could possibly happen, even ones that you think could never happen. But we talk them out beforehand and discuss as a group, what would we do? And those discussions take a while. So we try and go through all those early. I keep track of all those discussions that we have. So on draft day, certainly, we're going to have some questions, have some discussions still, but it won't be a lot. We've already talked about this. Now, as we get into the third day of the draft, where the picks are coming from everywhere, that's where you sometimes need to include a lot more people, a lot more scouts, a lot more coaches, just to get a little bit extra information. It's hard for me to know every single thing about every single player in this draft, and we have a lot of really detailed scouts, coaches, doctors, trainers are all part of this, security, with all this information. Now, the first round, we've discussed these things out already. There's not a whole lot of discussion on the clock in the first round, and probably not the second round either. We pick so high in the second round, we'll be able to talk overnight about what our plan is. But very rarely are you actually on the clock and you're like, hey, let's talk about what you want to do. We've had these discussions already, and we've already set the board, how we like them, not only in a position, but how one position may relate to another. How this running back in the 5th round compares to this corner in the 5th round, and where we kind of see them. We do all that beforehand.
Tom, just a very quick follow-up. Taylor Swift announced today that, she canceled the concert to open SoFi Stadium. And I know when you guys moved up, that was not your vision to be playing potentially in that beautiful new stadium in front of empty fans. How concerned are you about that potential?
I haven't had a chance to give it a lot of thought yet. I just know on the sequence list, we've got the draft first, and we'll get to the draft. And then we have our OTAs, which we have to get fixed. We're not fixed. We got to get that figured out. Now we'll start Monday virtually. So we'll start that Monday with the players, just meeting virtually with OTAs and see where that is. I haven't even got as far as training camp or regular season yet. I just know the draft's got to come first. OTAs comes next, and we'll figure out training camp after that.
Thanks, Tom. Be well.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Daniel Popper with the newly grown menacing facial hair is up next. Look at
menacing. That. Jeez. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Daniel.
So we haven't talked to you since free agency. I wanted to get your thoughts specifically on the Chris Harris signing. Where do you see him fitting into the defense? Is he going to be predominantly a slot guy? And if he's playing mostly in the slot, what does that mean for Desmond King's role next season?
Yeah, I don't think we've solidified anything with anybody yet. The good thing about Chris is he's played at a high level outside. He's played at a high level inside. He's really played at a high level everywhere you've used him. So we'll get that figured out once we get on the field. And in Desmond's case, in my opinion, Desmond can play outside, inside. He could play either safety spot if he wanted to. He could play nickel and dime. He could play. To me, he could play every spot in our secondary, which is why he's so valuable to us. So there are a lot of different ways to get things done, but pass rush and coverage are the two big ones, obviously. So we like having enough different pieces on defense that we can do some different things and not line up and be predictable. Not that we were predictable last year, but have enough pieces that Gus can use in different ways to keep people off balance.
And just a second question. What's your overall assessment of the left tackle spot right now? And where does Bulaga fit in? Is he going to play right tackle? And do you expect Trey Pipkins to be competing at left tackle for the starting spot? Where is he in his development? Sort of your overall assessment.
Yeah, same answer. I don't think anything's solidified yet, but I would think it would probably trend towards Brian staying on the right side. And then left side, you've got Sam Tebby, who's got very good left tackle feet. You got Trey Pipkins, obviously. We got some good time for us last year, some good play time. And honestly, you even have Forrest Lamp, who was a 4-year starter at left tackle in college. So, we have some options in-house there, and we'll go from there.
Thanks.
All right, back to Derek Togerson.
As we start to lap the field. All right, Tom, you've found a lot of guys from smaller schools. And a lot of times I'd imagine you don't have a lot of tape on those types of players. So how do you go about now making sure you have enough? And you're talking about your 6-7 round picks, maybe your undrafted free agents, from some of the guys who played at the smaller schools, maybe the FCS mid-majors. And of course, specifically a place like University of San Diego, they have players like Michael Bandy, Reed Sinnett, guys who are on NFL radars. Yeah. I know you can't talk about specific prospects, but maybe knowing Dale Lindsey and the program he's built down here, how do you make sure that you have the smaller school guys you don't have a whole lot of analysis on ranked properly on your board?
Yeah, no, you're first of all on Dale Lindsey and what he's done at USD, it's been amazing. They've had, think about the number of NFL players that have come out of there, and essentially it's a non-scholarship school, and they do a tremendous job with that program. But really, when you talk about 5th, 6th, 7th round, and certainly in college free agency, I mean, you're relying on your scouts heavily. And our guys do a great job of finding some players. Obviously, if you're either 6th, 7th round player, if you're a college free agent, you may not have every single trait that a team's looking for. Because if you did, you'd be drafted a lot higher. So you're trying to look for 1 or 2 things that we feel like can fit with us, that are NFL quality, NFL level traits that can make our team. And when it comes to small school players, and this is different than it was when I first started, I mean, we have tape on everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Division 1, 2, or 3 or NAIA. If there's a prospect at that school, more than likely we have every game that they played. The way video is now, it's all digital. It can all be sent over the internet to everybody. So it's amazing. We have video on everybody across the country. So that gives our scouts at least that part of it. And then if we think that player is worth the visit, then the scout will go into that school and make a school visit in the fall. And then if we still feel like that player is a potential draftable player, then he'll go back in the spring for the pro day. Now, the one issue this year with the small school players, those are the players you really would like workout numbers on, because I've seen a lot of Division 2, Division 3 running backs that ran for 2,000 yards, but they run a 4.8, 4.9 40, and that just doesn't really translate very well to the NFL. So, and sometimes it's hard to gauge how fast a Division 2 or Division 3 player is when they're playing against other players that are like me, that are slow. So the whole game is slower. So sometimes it's hard to gauge the speed. So it is good to get a 40 time. We drafted a receiver with the Colts named Pierre Garcon from Division 3 Mount Union, and his pro day helped because he ran like 4.48. I can see Hacksaw smiling there. He ran like 4.45 or 4.48 at his pro day. He actually got a chance to play in an all-star game. It was a lower level all-star game, but it was an all-star game with other Division 1 players. So it helped us make that projection to this level. And we ended up drafting him, I think, in the 6th round. He turned out to be an excellent player for the Colts and then moved on to San Francisco. But the workout numbers are important for the smaller school players to help us make that move. But you know what? We got to rely on our eyes too. I mean, our scouts are out there for a reason, watching tape, watching video, watching practice, and evaluating what we see.
All right. Next up, Jeff Miller.
Hey, Jeff.
Jeff, you're on mute.
There we go.
There we go.
There's 2 things, Tom. One is last year when you took some of us in, you were going through the way the draft works, and we're in your war room there. You have that giant board with all the players' names. How are you going to try to replicate that under these conditions? And then the second part, how much? There's a lot of famously smoke screen misinformation out there of what other teams are going to do. How much do you pay attention to that? And how much of what you're doing are you trying to anticipate what teams in front of you might do? And how much of a factor is that in making decisions and trying to formulate plans?
Yeah. So the first part of your question, the board that you saw, that had where every pick went to what team. That I don't quite need during the draft. Like once the player is taken, at that point doesn't matter to me that if he goes to San Francisco or Chicago or Pittsburgh. So I won't need that draft day. What that board is before you see it with the names, that board has every pick number on there across the league. And that's incredibly important to have. And that's changing throughout the draft. As every trade is made, we have to update that trade board so we know who has what picks at all times in real time. So that board I'm going to have on a screen in front of me that's going to be updated all the time. That I'll have. That's essential to the whole draft. So that's one of the screens I'll have. We'll just have that pick board on there so we know where the picks are to make a trade. And then the second question, what was the second question again? Just real quick.
Regarding the information that's out there. And
Yeah, when you get this close to the draft, I mean, it's hard to know or believe anything that you hear. Sometimes what you hear in January, February has a little more substance to it. At this point, I've heard everything about everybody. So, but a huge part of the draft is trying to determine and predict where players may go and how other teams may see them. do certain players fit their style, fit their scheme, fit their needs. Our pro scouting department goes through, does a really nice job of putting together every team, what they've done in the offseason, what they think their potential needs are, what their scheme is on offense and defense, who their coordinators are, and what players may fit what they do, because we are trying to, it's called draft management. We're trying to put players in positions where we think we can get them in the right spots. And that includes having to trade up or trade back. So yeah, it's a big part of the process. And it's one that we probably started that in earnest maybe a week ago, and it goes on through today and into next week, although it won't go till Thursday. At a certain point, you just get burned out of thinking about it too much. You just got to let it rip and draft. So, but yeah, that's a big part of the process.
All right. Steve Weish up again.
Tom, I think you're selling your athletic skills short, and I'm sure you've never engaged in setting out a smoke screen before the draft either.
You don't have to anymore. You guys talk about so much at both ends of the spectrum all the time. I mean, we don't have to say anything. I mean, what GM really goes out there and really tells anybody anything anyways?
There we go. Hey, my question is this, and with the offseason, you talked about the virtual OTAs and whatnot, but with the actual on-field stuff being delayed until whenever, and based on the fact that the NFL is, at least at this point, going to try to schedule game or play games and practice on schedule, how much could that lack of on-field continuity or work impact this incoming class of rookies?
It definitely will impact it. Every position, I think. It's hard for rookies in a normal year to get up to speed and contribute. Obviously, many do, but it's very difficult. If we have shortened OTAs or even shortened training camp, I have no idea. But all the time that they miss is going to affect them going into the season. It is what it is. But we'll do as much virtual work as we can. And then the flip side of that is all these players, both our veterans and the rookies, they still have to find places to work out. And that's not real easy right now, depending on what state you're in, about what you may have, where you can lift weights, where you can run, where you can maybe throw with the quarterback and receivers, or, it's just not that easy. And these players, and this is what they do for a living. And whenever we start, I mean, we're starting and going. So I know all these players want to make sure they're in good physical condition when they come back, but we know how difficult it is right now for everybody, pro players, college players, high school players. I have two boys here that play sports, and I told them, hey, when these restrictions loosen up, you got to be ready to go. Like, you just can't all of a sudden, all right, now I'm going to get in shape and get ready to go. Like no one's going to care anymore that you missed, a month or two of conditioning. Like, you got to be ready. So you have to be creative as far as how you get your workouts in. And I think our players have had to do that. And depending on where you live, it may be different, but I know they're all working on that individually.
Jim Alexander up next.
Hi, Tom. How you doing? How are things?
Good, Jim. Good.
The question I have, you talked about OTAs. What will it take from a public health standpoint before you feel comfortable that you can get guys back in the building and on the field?
I'll tell you what will make me comfortable is when medical professionals tell us what to do. So that's what we'll lean on. We're like a lot of other industries that want to get back to work, but we're not able to yet. So when the proper people, more than likely doctors, when they tell us that when it's safe to go back and we have the right protocols in place, then we'll be ready to go.
Is there kind of a baseline though? Is there sort of a threshold where you can expect that those medical professionals will say, okay, it's safe?
I don't have one right now. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm so much in the draft prep right now. I'll probably open myself up to the real world in about a week and a half. But no, that all has to be discussed. And look, we're going to get back to work at some point. We just don't know when it is.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right, next up, Gilbert Manzano, first question.
Hey, Tom. Peter King recently called you a top 5 poker face GM. Why do you think you said that? And is there anybody in your household who knows you're going to take in the first round?
I think that was a very subjective poll. I mean, who knows? Like I said, I don't think any GM really tells anybody anything. Do I tell anybody in my household? No. You can ask if they're sitting right over here. And they've been in here for all the coaches meetings, all the scouts meetings, everything. I don't think they know what's going on. They better not. But no, I just we kind of keep things close. We don't do our business in public. And as of right now, I guess I don't do it in private either.
How's it been working I think I saw a picture you're working in the living room.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of nice actually. I got a big dining room table. I got them all spread out. It hasn't been too bad. I wish I had a door to shut from time to time, but other than that, there's some negatives to being at home, but there's some positives too. I mean, we're all of us that work in football. There's long hour jobs and 7-day-a-week jobs usually for most of the year. So to be home with your family, really breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's different and new, but it's we don't take it for granted. It's been kind of cool sometimes. So, but the flip side of that is it kind of blurs the line between work and family, because especially during draft time, because there's always work to do and it's right here. I mean, and there's obviously nothing else going on. There's no other sports to watch on TV and there's nowhere to go. So you end up just working really 24/7.
All right. Up next, we've got a first-time caller, long-time listener on the hotline here, Joe Reedy from the phone. Unmute it, Joe.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Oh, okay. Tom, I just drove by your alma mater and there's snow on the ground, so you probably have 5.2 speed today.
Yeah, I heard it snowed in the Northeast yesterday. My dad sent a picture from Buffalo. Looked like January.
Just a question about offensive tackles. Most of the top prospects played on the right side during college. What skills or tools, or does it really matter what side they play in college as far as maybe projecting whether they can be a left tackle or not?
You know what, Joe? At this point, left tackles and right tackles, they both have to be able to pass protect against big-time pass rushers in our league. Almost everybody, it seems like, has rushers on both sides, left and right. Plus, there's no rule on defense that you're only allowed to line up a pass rusher in one place. They can line up anywhere they want, any gap they want, any edge they want. So both tackles at the end really have to be able to have left tackle feet, because this is a passing league and you have to be able to pass protect. So I think the differences between left and right tackle over the last, 10, 20 years is probably kind of morphed into really just being an offensive tackle.
And then just as far as the off-season programs and everything, you feel coaching-wise, you may be further ahead, maybe compared to the lockout year of 2011, because coaches will be able to do some instruction and everything. And I mean, coaches, you can translate the playbook to them and everything, so they won't necessarily be coming in blind.
Well, we'll be able to do playbook work and board work and installation just the way we're doing it here. A little more video, a little more whiteboard, but they'll be able to do it with the players like this right now, starting on Monday. The one thing that concerns me as far as the difference between the lockout and right now is during the lockout, those players had places to go work out and could work out in groups, all in one group if they wanted to, or at least in small groups. They had workout facilities to go train at, fields, everything. That's what they don't have right now, and that's a large part of their job. So that's the only thing that to me, that's the biggest difference between the lockout in 11 and the pandemic right now in 2020.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
All right, Daniel, you're back up.
Just generally speaking, Tom, when you're assessing prospects, how important is durability, and where does that rank in the traits you're looking for in a potential player you're going to draft?
Very, very high. We do. I can't even estimate the amount of hours we put into the medical portion of it. Our team doctors, both orthopedic and general medicine, do a ton of work for us. Our trainers, Damon Mitchell, Marco Zacconi, they do a lot of work too. So we have the information, not just on the injuries that players have had, but how they've healed, and then really trying to predict out what the risk may be down the road. Big part of the whole process. I mean, no matter how good a player is, if he's not available to you, then he doesn't help the team. So that's a big part of the process. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to have a team where you can't rely on players. So yeah, it's a big part of the draft process. Isn't probably talked about as much, but yeah, it's a major part.
And then just an overall assessment of where you guys are at linebacker. Where does Drew Tranquil fit in? Do you feel like he can be competing at will? And Denzel will be at Mike. I know you said a lot of that's still in flux, but do you feel like you need to add another piece at linebacker there to compete at will?
Well, you're right. Drew Tranquil is an excellent football player. He can play Mike or play Will. We signed Nick Vigil from the Bengals. He can play Mike and play Will. He played Will with the Bengals, a 2-year starter there, and we like him a lot. Scouts are very excited about signing him. He's tough. He's smart. He's very athletic. He's long. And he's played a good amount of football. So we got those guys. And then Malik Jefferson is a player that when he came out in the draft, and I forgot what year it was, we had very, very high grades on him. We thought he fit our defense very well. So we're able to acquire him on the practice squad this past year, and he'll have a really good opportunity this year to work more at Mike than Will. And then we like our Sam linebackers as well. So I think we're actually okay there depth-wise. Always looking for more and more competition, but overall, I like the group.
Anthony had mentioned that Kaiser was sort of entrenched at the Sam spot largely because there were still some issues with his knee. Where is he at health-wise? And do you feel like Kaiser can play other positions, or do you feel like you like him at Sam right now?
Yeah, 2 years ago, he had some knee issues. I thought he came through last year pretty well. And, very rare for a college safety to transition to that Sam linebacker spot, but he's done it really well. But I do think he has versatility. He played Will linebacker for us his rookie year before he got hurt. I know he can go over there and play. It's very helpful for us to have some linebackers that are very interchangeable, that they can play different spots in our defense, including Chenna. Chenna can play Sam linebacker for us as well as defensive end and rush the passer. So to have a lot of guys that can play different spots really helps us. And Kaiser is definitely one of those guys.
Thanks. All right, Fernando.
Hey, Tom. So basically last year from the Steelers game till about the game in Denver, no receiver named Keenan Allen or Mike Williams made a catch. Are you guys going with the receiver class being so deep? Do you feel like receiver is a position that you guys are looking at for this for the draft?
I don't get too hung up on where the ball went to exactly what position. I mean, you named the two receivers, but you didn't name Hunter Henry and Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon. So there's different ways to get the ball down the field passing. It does not have to be to a wide receiver, and we only have so many balls to go around. We want to make sure we get Hunter enough catches. We know how good Austin is out of the backfield, and then obviously last year and through his career, how good Melvin Gordon is out of the backfield, the matchups that those guys get. So sure, we would like to add another receiver at some point, but it's like I said, we have a lot of skill on offense to spread the ball around. So the fact that we didn't have a third receiver get as many catches or any touchdowns, that didn't really concern me too much.
All right, next up is Kraz, laying in the weeds, waiting to ask. 45 minutes in.
Tom, I want to, before I ask you this main question on quarterbacks, were you part of the process with the Colts with Andrew Luck drafting him?
Yes.
Okay, so that does that experience help you now if you're looking at quarterback, or I'm sure you've looked at quarterback every year, how much, even though you haven't taken one up top in the top 3 rounds, 4 rounds actually, how much quarterback work did you do during those years? And is it a different position now with all the read option and hybrid type stuff compared to when you guys were looking at Andrew Luck?
As you go into a draft, you never know what you're going to take before the draft. So it's not like your preparation changes because there's a certain position that you say, hey, we're definitely going to take or not going to take. It's the same process every year. So we've scouted quarterbacks every year with the Colts and every year with the Chargers the same way, like we could be taking one that year, just like every other position. It doesn't matter who we have. I mean, we scout them out, discuss, talk, put them on the draft board. Like we have an empty roster of no players, and then we'll go from there. So the process and preparation doesn't change at all. Do I specifically lean back on when we took Andrew Luck and that group? I mean, I don't know about specifically, but every year that you go through this process, you always gain, some knowledge and some situations you went through. You always lean on them, whether you actually even remember specifically or not. But I mean, this has been the same process for us as every single other year. It doesn't matter who you have. I mean, we scouted quarterbacks in Indianapolis when we had Peyton Manning in his prime the same way as we did towards the end of his career. It was no different.
And have you come close as Chargers GM to taking a quarterback in the top 4 rounds?
Yeah, we have.
I don't suppose you'd like to tell us.
Yeah, not really.
All right. We're going to be wrapping this up. A few more questions, guys. So we got Nick Hamilton.
Hey, Tom. You guys have made it clear that Tyrod Taylor was going to be your quarterback, at least for the foreseeable future. But there was a photo that surfaced many weeks ago regarding him working out with Cam Newton. Is Cam Newton somebody that may be on your radar, or if so, what quality of importance?
Yeah, I don't quite understand why a photo would actually play into anything, but we're really happy with Tyrod right now. He's an experienced quarterback. He's taken a team to the playoffs before. He knows our offense. He knows our coaches. Our coaches know him. His teammates believe in him. We believe in him. So very happy with him. And we have a developmental quarterback in Easton Stick that we think has some traits to get better. So right now, like we're all of our resources right now are strictly on draft preparations, not only with the draft, but actually preparing to do it the way we're going to do it. So we'll look and see what's available after the draft, free agent wise, like we always do. But right now we're comfortable where we are.
All right, Jason, you're up.
Tom, you mentioned earlier that there's all these extra considerations you have to have for this offseason, given that you don't know when training camp's going to be. Obviously the virtual, OTAs and all of that stuff play into this too. Knowing that there's going to be, or at least likely going to be, additional challenges than what you would normally face in an offseason, how does that affect your approach to this draft class? Does it push up guys who maybe are more polished over guys who are maybe more physically talented but raw? Like, how do you consider those things when you're making your decisions?
Yeah, I think we have to keep it the same. Just keep it a normal. Like, we're going to play football again. It could be on the same time frame for all we know. I mean, we just don't know. I don't think we know what's going to happen, 3 or 4 weeks from now, what the atmosphere is going to be like in this country. So it'd be hard to make those big decisions based on, guessing what could happen down the road as far as when we actually start. So we'll stay with the same plan we always have. Hopefully sooner than later, things settle down and we can get back to workouts and our OTAs and move on as usual. But yeah, I'm not going to let that potential affect how we draft. We're drafting right now like we're starting training camp on, late July like we always do.
And as a quick follow-up, knowing that, again, there's the possibility that the offseason is going to be adjusted to what it normally is,
right.
Does that affect your expectation or the team's expectations for the second-year players you have? So not just specifically like Jerry Tillery and some of those guys, but that class as a whole going into their second year?
Yeah, it does. And it's going to require the individual players really putting it on them for their player development, because we just aren't able to get with them. It's just physically, we just can't get with them. So as you improve your team through the off season, there's a lot of ways to do it. Obviously there's the draft, there's making trades, and there's signing free agents. But the fourth one is just as important or more important, is developing the players that you have on your own roster. We draft young players or sign young players. We want to develop them, and they don't all come in as be starters on opening day. They may come in, have a role, be a backup, move into like a role starter, and then turn into a real starter down the road for us. That takes time. It takes development. That's how you get better. It's not just going out and getting new players. So obviously this year it's going to change depending on when we can actually work with them. So, thankfully, when we're drafting players and signing players too, I mean, we're looking for players that are that have drive, work ethic, and they're self-motivated. And those three things you're going to have at this time because a lot of your workouts you will be by yourself, literally, whether it's lifting weights in a garage or out running a grass hill, finding a practice field somewhere to work. So a lot of the player improvement is going to come individually from them. But like I said, I'm proud that we have some guys I think fit that category that are going to be able to do that and don't need us behind them, pushing them the whole time. Now, it'd be nice if we were there for some instruction, especially football wise, technique wise, whatever position it is. But we'll do some of it this way, do it virtually, and take it from there.
Thanks, Tom.
Daniel, you're up.
Do you have any expectation of when you'll know either way on Mike Pouncey and if he'll be ready for the season? And how much is that uncertainty sort of affecting your off season?
He's trending in the right direction. Obviously we haven't had a chance to see him in a long time, but all indications are very good. We'll see whenever we get back on the field, whenever the players can come back in the building or even travel again. Right now, really no one can travel. So, but no, all indications look very good right now. I know he's excited to play, but everything looks pretty good right now.
And just one other question. You see what the Chiefs have done as far as building their offense with just a ton of speed. That's one area where on offense you guys are lacking a little bit. Do you feel like you need to add more speed on offense, even if it's not a receiver, if it's a running back that you see who has a lot of speed? Do you feel like that's one place that you need to upgrade?
We're always looking for speed everywhere. We're an athletic, speed-based team. So if that's not the number one criteria with almost every player we take, it's pretty high. So yeah, every position, speed and athletic ability is paramount for us.
All right. And the honor of the last question goes to Jeff Miller.
Great decision, Josh. Daniel took one of my questions, but I do have another one. Regarding Hunter Henry, is a long-term extension, is that still in the works? I know it sounds like he signed his tag, but is that still something you guys are looking at?
Oh yeah, I think I think we just got the signed tag in yesterday, and something we'll look at after the draft. Right now, all our resources are based on the draft, and then we'll get to that again right after the draft.